proposals to reform the welfare system have passed their first Commons hurdle this evening, with MPs voting with a majority of 75 in favour of the Labour Party's welfare bill. Let's have a quick recap.
The ayes to the right, 335. The noes to the left, 260.
The ayes to the right, 335. The noes to the left, 260. So the ayes have it, unlock.
There we go, a victory for Sir Keir Starmer's Labour Party, but was it a hollow victory? Let's cross now to GBNews political editor Chris Hope, who's in Westminster Hall with Helen Whately, the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary. Chris, over to you.
That's right, Martin. With me now is Helen Whately, the Tories' Shadow Work and Pension spokesman. Helen Whately, what just happened in there?
Oh, it's been an extraordinary afternoon in the Chamber. I mean, already Labour had been making U-turns on this welfare bill. It started out saving £5 billion, then they made a U-turn which brought it down to about £2.5 billion. And then literally in the Chamber this afternoon, the Minister stood up, made an intervention and pulled half of the bill out. He can't even say now how much it's going to save, but what is crystal clear is that the government's economic credibility is in tatters and Keir Starmer's authority is in tatters too.
It feels like Number 10 has lost control of the backbench Labour Party tonight.
I mean, Number 10 has lost control of their backbenchers, they've lost control of the whole of government. Governments have to be able to make difficult decisions. It's impossible to see how Keir Starmer will be able to make any difficult decisions in the years ahead. He cannot control his party. And actually, it was his fault and Rachel Reeves' fault. They got themselves into this position. They brought forward really bad legislation, really inadequate, insufficient savings as well. And they didn't listen to their backbenchers and they didn't listen to us either. And they have brought this on themselves.
These plans were going to cut £5 billion a week ago. Is that figure really £0 now, as your leader, Kevin Baynott, says?
I mean, it could well be down to absolutely zero. These have been diminishing savings. The Minister himself couldn't say whether there would be any savings now, and there's a review which will determine really whether there will or there won't. So this could be all this fuss, but potentially no savings.
And just finally, your party wants to cut the benefits bill. Why did you vote against cuts in the benefits bill tonight?
Well, I mean, I don't know how anyone actually could vote for the shambles that we've seen this evening. And we were quite clear what we would support. We would support more savings, we would support getting more people into work. This bill didn't do that. As I say, it's next to no savings. Actually, you're just going to have civil servants working away and doing something that's not proper reform. What they need to do is bring forward real reforms.
Helen Whately, thank you for joining us tonight. Helen Whately there, she's the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Martin, saying there she thinks it could be now £0 saved from the benefits bill. And that is a big issue now for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor. Are we looking at a need to push up taxes or increase borrowing in the budget later this year? But joining me now also is Toby Perkins, a Labour MP, and we'll find out how he wants to react straight away. Toby Perkins, how do you vote in that bill?
I voted to support it.
So what happened tonight?
Well, what happened was we, in the run-up to this vote, myself and many other colleagues had real concerns about the direction of this bill, particularly around PIP. I'm glad to say that the government listened to those concerns, and ultimately we've ended up, I think, with a bill that people were able to support.
And yet, what is the bill now with the PIP changes gone? What's left of it? It's a husk of a thing.
Quite a substantial amount is left of it. The universal credit is left of it. The most important parts, if you like, were the ways in which the government was going to help people who are disabled get into work. We've got the ability to try work so that you don't risk your benefits if you're trying work. That's one of the big barriers to disabled people getting into work. So I think there's quite a lot left. Actually, what's gone out of it was the things that people were writing to me about, really concerned in the last week or so.
We've got Maurice Glassman, who founded Blue Labour, in the studio with Martin Daubney. He's saying the party needs to have a lot of thinking about what's it for, what on earth is it up to. They can't cut benefits, and the fact that you can't cut benefits in areas where reform do well, it's literally a good thing to do, isn't it?
Well, I think I didn't hear entirely what Maurice, who obviously paraphrased what he's had to say, but I think, we're very clear on what the party's plan for change is. I think you can see the direction of travel on National Health Service, what we're doing to support children out of poverty in schools. I think it's pretty clear what this government's about, but I think we did have this wrong a week ago. I had to say that, and I'm glad that the Prime Minister listened, because I think we've ended up inelegantly, I admit, but we've ended up in a much better place.
Okay. Terry Perkins, thank you for joining us tonight on GB News. So there we have it. Labour trying to brush off tonight as a little local difficulty. We got there in the end. But I think joining me now, I think we'll get Nigel Farage with you in 1 second.
Chris, we'll come back to you for Nigel Farage in a moment, but I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio now by Dr. Shani Danda, one of the UK's leading disability advocates. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company.
Thank you.
What do you make of tonight's bill? Presumably you're delighted, because ostensibly it won't change anything about people's PIP entitlements.
We won't know that until obviously the TIMD review, so it's, I think, delayed the agony for now, because when the government last did a consultation, which was for the work capability assessment, the High Court actually ruled that as unlawful because it was rushed, it was ill-informed, and we don't know if the government will consult with disabled people in a meaningful way. I really hope that they do, now they've been given this opportunity to.
Dr. Shani, anybody with a heart, anybody watching the show, anybody in Britain would totally concur and agree that those who genuinely need the support of the state should be in full recipient of that. But do you concur that we may have an issue where some people are gaming the system? Some people are able to work, but they're making out they're not. That was the point of trying to get to the bottom of this, trying to make sure that people like yourselves genuinely get the help they deserve. But we're in a position where in some constituencies, 20% of people are now claiming they can't work because of anxiety and depression. Do you admit that some people might be taking the mickey?
Well, the DWP's own figures say that disability benefit fraud is less than 1%. So, you know, the media is telling us one thing and the DWP's own findings are telling us something else. I think it's understandable. We're really living in tough times, a cost of living crisis. People are actually struggling to get jobs. I'm not saying that there's not going to be anyone out there that isn't being dishonest. Of course, we're going to expect that. But when the figures are less than 1%, you know, we've got to remember this is a 40-page form you fill in. You've got to give reams of medical evidence. And many people actually only get this support after going to tribunal if they have the energy to take it that far.
But we are facing a £100 billion per annum benefits bill by the end of this decade. We simply can't afford that, or if we can afford it, it will inevitably mean there'll have to be tax rises on the working population. That's a system that's unsustainable.
I think there's so many ways to make this solution much more better than it is. Imagine if we got more disabled people in work, how much more that would bring to the Treasury. But there are so many things that prevent that from happening. I live in London, I can't even use the tube, it's not accessible. Some of these jobs that they want disabled people to go into don't exist. And if they did exist, how are they going to get there? There's no accessible housing. We need a holistic approach. You know, if people's accessible housing needs are met, they're 4 times more likely to be in work. This isn't just about pushing people into jobs that actually aren't accessible.
While we wait to get connected with Nigel Farage, thank you. Thanks for that. Let's bring you guys in. Look, you'd have to have a heart of stone, you know, no Morris Glassman, to
I do, you know I do.
What I'm saying is, have we got ourselves into a position now where the Labour Party certainly is unable to differentiate between the genuinely needy who deserve our full support and commitment and the fact that some people might be gaming it? We'll come back to your thoughts in a minute because we can now cross back to Chris Hope. He's with Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK. Let's go.
No, we love Morris.
Nigel Farage, welcome to GB News tonight. I'm your host, Martin Doyle. What do you make of tonight's vote? It seems we're talking about it here, something of a total farce.
2 points to make, Martin. I think one, very clear that this bill has been watered down beyond recognition and is virtually meaningless, and we'll see what comes back next week. But kind of the rebellion was still there, but it was stilted. But there's a bigger picture, I think. It's a quote from way back in the 60s when Macmillan's government was in trouble. Never again, glad, confident morning. And I think that now applies to Starmer's leadership of the Labour Party and as Prime Minister of our country. U-turn after U-turn after U-turn. Denial of what he said in the speech on immigration. Oh, I regret it, I hadn't read it. A self-admission that he's a puppet. And today, to avoid potentially a massive defeat in the House of Commons, a watering down of a bill that renders it almost meaningless, I think. So I'm looking big picture. This government is in big trouble.
And Nigel Farage, you voted against this because presumably the Reform Party would like to be much stricter on benefits to help get rid of this £100 billion per year by the end of the decade. It's simply unaffordable. What should be done to try and grasp the nettle?
Well, firstly, we voted against it because I won't lift a finger to help a government that is doing so much damage to our country. And I say that after 2,000 young men have come across the English Channel in the last 2 days, many of whom will do us great harm. But I also think that the idea that 1 in 10 of working age are on disability benefits, that many of them have been signed off by their GP on a 10-minute Zoom consultation, is a complete and utter nonsense. And the government themselves were saying, look, there are people, and I quote, taking the mickey out of the system. What happened tonight didn't address any of that. And we have to address that because we have to be fair to those whose alarm clocks go off in the morning, go off and work, pay their taxes, run their small companies, work as taxi drivers, whatever they do. Many of them, millions of them now feel, why bother? I'll be as well off on benefits. And that gap between unemployment and employment has to widen, and nothing this evening that's happened has narrowed that.
Nigel Farage, the Labour Party's attitude tonight was almost to seem to bury their head in their sand. They won't go cross-examine any previous claims. They won't analyse any future ones until after a review. Surely now the time has come for a much more rigorous process of how you get benefits in the first place. And how about taking everybody in who's already got a claim to make sure they're the real deal?
Many of them who are on these claims have come in the last 5 years since lockdowns, since the catastrophic impact of the pandemic that our government put upon us. And frankly, and I'm going to repeat the point, many of them on a 10-minute Zoom consultation with their family GP, I'm a bit depressed, doc, have been signed off for life on disability benefits, which of course means they get more than normal unemployment benefits. The whole thing needs to be looked at again. It is unfair to taxpayers. It's bankrupting the country. It's also, I think, reducing our sympathy for those who are really in trouble. I want to live in a society, a post-1945 society, where the welfare state is there as a safety net for those who can't help themselves, not for those who want to game the system. And that's the truth of it. Liz Kendall, the minister, recognised that at the beginning. Unfortunately, the Labour backbenchers couldn't deal with the truth.
And Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK and MP for Clacton, thank you very much for joining us on GBNews tonight. And let's get some reaction.